Hey folks, today's video we're going to be looking at the duck legs that I had left over from the carcass the other day, and I'm just going to very quickly do them in the frying pan and then finish them off in the oven, and then after that we're going to show you some stock and hopefully you'll pick up a tip or two. So the duck legs couldn't be easier. All you're going to do is take a knife and poke holes all over the place because you want all that very fatty skin to start rendering and giving up some of that juicy, gooey, fatty goodness that it has. So all over the place. Try not to poke right through into the pan. And then you're going to turn the heat on. Just get it going. And you can actually flip these legs over and get them on the fatty side. And that should do wonders for the process. So while that's going, I'll actually switch burners here. Turn that one off. So that's going to get going over there. And I'm going to pull out what I've been working on for the last hour or so, which is the bones left over from the carcass. And as you can see from the bones, they're quite round. And that's what you want. There are two basic kinds of stock. You've got a brown stock or you've got a white stock. Brown stock just means it's darker in color. It's brown as opposed to white. Normally you'd make a white out of something like chicken, and then with a brown stock you'd be looking at beef or veal. In the case of duck, it is a red meat as well. So if you wanted to make a brown stock, if you wanted to make a much darker, richer stock out of duck, by all means you can do it. You pretty much do whatever you want. You just break the rules if it's just for you. Who cares? So again, look, we're going to get this pot here. We're going to take all these bones out, once again with the color on them. Just knock off some of the juices. Once again, do not throw out the fat. Even the fat that's in there, you can strain that, you can clear it out, and you can use it. So all these bits of bone are going to go straight in there. And we will put this pan off to one side, somewhere where it's not in my limited space here in the way. You've got your bones in there. You've got your veg in here. The veg isn't quite as brown as I wanted it to. I added it a little bit after. I'm just going to have to set that in the sink for 1 second while I close this. The veg, you would normally want a little more color than this. Sort of similar to whatever color you're taking the bones to. But they've just started off. In a white stock, you wouldn't cook this at all. Also, you'll notice this hasn't been peeled. I'm going to leave the skin on the garlic. And I didn't have any celery, so I just improvised. I threw in a bit of broccoli stock. In a white stock, again, you would peel all these, you would wash all your vegetables, and you would get them as clean as possible because you want as little impurities as possible. In a brown stock, it's all about deep, rich color. You would also even throw in some tomato paste on especially on beef bones, veal bones. You would take a can of tomato paste, open it up, and smear it right onto the bones, and that will, after you bake it, you can also throw in some flour, and after you bake it, it will give it a very rich, very deep color. And that's what you want when you're looking at brown stock. It's all about the color, which adds flavor. So all your veg straight into there. And after you've got the bones and the veg, you want your herbs. Now, the fancy term for sticking herbs in a stock in restaurants is called a bouquet garni. And the basic idea is you would take, in this case, you would take some sage. I'm just going to pluck these leaves off of here. And I don't have any fresh thyme left, unfortunately. I have dried thyme from the garden because the thyme was one of the first plants to go back there. We're going to take that, and I've got some dried bay leaves. We're going to take that. So normally, as I said, you would have what's called a bouquet garni, which is basically all these wrapped together either in cheesecloth or with a piece of string. And the idea behind that is, as you have it tied up, you could just dip it over the side and then tie the string here, and then it's very easy to pull out, and you don't have to worry about, picking out all the little bits. In this case, I'm not that worried, because when I'm done with this, I am going to strain it through a sieve with some cheesecloth. So all those little bits, they're not going anywhere anyway. That stock will be strained thoroughly into a pot. If you want to be fancy, by all means go ahead. You can do it that way. I'm just throwing it straight in. So after you've got all that stuff in, you're just going to, nothing exciting here, fill it with some water. Cold water, always cold water. While that's filling, I'll bring you back over here, and you can have a look at these. And you can see already that beautiful color. Not quite ready yet. If it's still sticking to the pan, that means it's still searing out. Give it a minute. So there's your pot. I've covered with enough water, and that's ready to go. You put that on, you turn on the heat, and you're going to get that going. Never ever boil a stock. When it first starts out, you got to keep an eye on it, and just as it starts bubbling up, just as you know it's going to start simmering, keep a very close eye on it, and then once it starts simmering, keep it at that level. Do not let it boil. You'll just ruin it. So that's going to go until it starts simmering. Once it does, you're going to notice you're going to get a lot of scum coming off. And the scum is basically bits of fat that have congealed in the boiling water. Obviously, you don't want to eat that. Take it off. At the end of the day, your stock should be pretty much the same color as the rendered duck fat that I showed you the other day. It should be just as clear as that, and a nice dark brown color. That's what you're going for. So because this is not a very large pot, this will only take probably hour and a half, 2 hours, somewhere around there. Do it very low, very slow, take care of it, and once you're done, you will have some great stock. Do your seasoning right at the end, because in some cases, if you want to freeze it, that's going to dilute it, and you'll lose some of the seasoning. In other cases, you never know, because as it reduces, it obviously tends to adjust in the seasoning. So do your seasoning right at the end. Always put the salt and pepper right at the end, just when you're ready to use your stock. And that's pretty much it for that. So that's going to sit there. And we'll take another look. There you go. Flip that over. And flip that over. And that we're going to put into the oven. I had the bones roasting at 375 for an hour. We're going to turn the oven down now to 320. I'll just open the door for a second, let that cool off a bit. Close it back up. And that should go as well for about an hour. And by the time that's done, you can already see the coloring on the top where the fat is. If it's that color all the way around and the skin is all crispy and you cut into it and it just falls apart in your hands, that's exactly what you're looking for. Crispy skinned duck. So hopefully you picked up something here. If you did, leave me a comment, let me know. Thanks. Take care.